Alexander Alex Monroe is a name synonymous with success in the world of technology. As the CEO of a multinational tech company, Alex's wealth and influence are unrivaled. He is a charismatic leader, often seen in the press and at industry events, dressed in impeccably tailored suits, surrounded by the elite. His company is a powerhouse, his decisions often shaping the future of the industry. To the outside world, Alex appears to have it all: power, prestige, and an endless supply of resources. But beneath the polished surface, something is amiss. Alex is disconnected from the real world, consumed by the high-stakes nature of his business empire. He works relentlessly, his days filled with meetings, negotiations, and strategy sessions, leaving little room for anything outside the confines of his office. His relationships are strained, he has few close friends, and his family often feels more like distant acquaintances than loved ones. Known for his calculated approach to leadership, Alex makes decisions without the weight of emotional connection, treating people as pawns in a game rather than as individuals. Despite the external signs of success, Alex is beginning to feel a deep sense of dissatisfaction. Something feels hollow. His achievements, once celebrated, now seem meaningless, and he questions whether the wealth and power he's amassed are worth the personal sacrifices he's made along the way. The once sharp edge of ambition has dulled, and Alex finds himself wrestling with a growing emptiness inside. He has everything he could ever need, yet something is missing. A personal event, a sudden loss, perhaps the death of a close family member, or an unexpected encounter with someone from a completely different walk of life, sparks an epiphany in Alex. He realizes that he has been living in a bubble, disconnected from the simple joys and connections that make life meaningful. This moment of clarity shakes him, and he begins to wonder what life would be like if he stepped away from the world of luxury and technology. Could he live as a normal person, experiencing the world in a more genuine way? The idea of a simpler life starts to take root in his mind, setting him on a path of self-discovery and transformation. Alex Monroe's life was about as far from a farm as one could imagine. Surrounded by high-rise buildings, sleek office furniture, and a steady stream of business deals, his world was one of sophistication and technology. But one evening, while attending a charity gala, a chance encounter would change the course of his life. At the event, Alex struck up a conversation with an older man named Henry, a humble farmer who had been invited to the gala as part of a farming initiative promoting sustainability. Henry had heard of Alex's company and its success in the tech industry, and the two quickly fell into a casual discussion about work-life balance and personal fulfillment. As the conversation progressed, Henry, sensing Alex's emotional distance and lack of genuine human connection, made a bold challenge. "You think your business empire is tough? Try living a day on the farm. It's a life of real hard work, patience, and deep connection to the earth. You wouldn't last a day." Henry chuckled, his words carrying an undertone of challenge and amusement. Alex, always confident in his abilities and unaccustomed to being questioned, scoffed at the idea. The notion of trading his comfortable office chair for the backbreaking labor of farm work seemed absurd to him. Farming was, in his mind, primitive and rudimentary, nothing more than a series of monotonous, menial tasks. He had managed billion-dollar deals, negotiated with CEOs around the world, and steered his company through a sea of competition. What could a day on a farm teach him? But something in Henry's words resonated with Alex, sparking his curiosity. There was a sense of personal growth implied in the challenge, a chance to experience something real, something tangible, far removed from the digital world he lived in. As the evening wore on, the idea of spending a day on a farm began to appeal to him. Perhaps it could offer the change of pace he was subconsciously craving, a chance to break free from his sterile world and reconnect with something raw and unfiltered. The next morning, Alex reluctantly accepted Henry's offer. He found himself preparing for a day that would be unlike anything he had ever experienced. His preparation, though, was more out of curiosity than any real expectation of hardship. He dismissed the idea that he might struggle with manual labor, showing up in his most casual attire, a pair of worn jeans and a t-shirt, still overestimating his ability to navigate this completely foreign world. Alex felt a strange mix of confidence and skepticism as he set out for the farm. He imagined it would be easy, even amusing, to try his hand at something so different. What he didn't anticipate was how physically demanding the tasks would be, or how emotionally challenging it might become to step outside the comfort of his corporate identity. When Alex arrived, he was greeted by Henry and his family, who were more than happy to show him the ropes of farm life. Alex felt out of place immediately, his clothes ill-suited for the hard work ahead. But he pushed through the awkwardness, trying to mask his discomfort with a feigned confidence. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a day that would fundamentally alter his perception of both work and life. When Alex Monroe arrived at Henry's farm the next morning, he was immediately struck by how different everything seemed. The setting was rural, quiet, and infinitely more peaceful than the bustling cityscape he was accustomed to. As his sleek car rolled down the long, dusty driveway, Alex took in the sight of rolling fields, barns, and a small farmhouse that seemed to sit at the heart of the land, humble yet sturdy. The air was fresh, earthy, and smelled of hay and livestock, an unfamiliar scent that tugged at his senses in a way he didn't expect. The first thing that hit him, though, was the silence. There were no ringing phones, no chatter of colleagues, no sound of keyboards clicking or printers buzzing. Instead, there were only the gentle hum of insects, the soft rustling of leaves in the wind, and the distant sounds of animals. It was an alien world to him, a world that felt disconnected from his high-tech life. Henry, the farmer, greeted him with a firm handshake, a grin that seemed to suggest he knew exactly how uncomfortable Alex would be, and a twinkle of amusement in his eyes. A man in his 60s, Henry had an easygoing demeanor that contrasted sharply with the sharp-edged corporate world Alex knew. His clothes were worn and practical, an old plaid shirt, faded jeans, and work boots that had clearly seen better days. He didn't appear to be concerned with impressing anyone, and that, in itself, was refreshing to Alex. "Ready for your day as a farmer, Alex?" Henry asked with a chuckle. Alex, still unsure of what he was getting into, nodded. "Let's see if I can survive," he replied, trying to maintain his usual air of confidence. Henry led him on a tour of the farm, explaining the various tasks that kept the operation running. He began with the livestock, a few cows, some chickens, and several horses. Alex was taken aback by the sheer amount of work involved in caring for them. He hadn't realized how much attention they needed, from feeding to cleaning their pens, to ensuring they had fresh water. As they walked, Henry gave a brief overview of the daily routines, collecting eggs from the chickens, making sure the cows were milked, and inspecting the crops. He even showed Alex how to repair a fence that had been damaged by a recent storm. For the first time, Alex felt out of his element. He didn't know the first thing about farm tools, let alone how to use them properly. When it came time to start, Alex's unease became apparent. His hands, unaccustomed to hard labor, felt awkward around the tools Henry handed him. Feeding the animals seemed simple enough, but he had never done it himself. His initial enthusiasm quickly turned into frustration as he fumbled with the hay bales, struggling to lift them. The weight was heavier than he anticipated, and he found himself sweating and breathing harder than he had in a long time. But the real shock came when Alex was tasked with shoveling manure. The smell was overwhelming, the heat of the sun unbearable, and the physical strain left his body aching in ways it never had before. By midday, his hands were blistered, his back ached from bending over to work, and he felt physically drained. This was nothing like the hours he spent in his luxurious office chair, dealing with spreadsheets and conference calls. Yet, despite the exhaustion, Alex began to realize something: this was real work. There was a certain satisfaction in seeing the immediate results of his labor, even if it was something as simple as a clean stall or a properly fed animal. There was no ambiguity here, no waiting for weeks or months to see the impact of his decisions. The work on the farm was immediate and tangible, something he had never really experienced in his high-powered job. As the day went on, Alex's perspective shifted. The simplicity of the farm, the quiet rhythm of its daily tasks, began to feel strangely fulfilling. There was no rush, no pressure to perform at an ever higher level. Life on the farm was lived in smaller increments: feeding, watering, planting, and harvesting. It was a world built on patience, steadiness, and connection with the land. Alex was becoming acutely aware of something he had long overlooked in his corporate world: the emotional connection people had with their work, their land, and each other. Watching Henry tend to his crops, Alex could see the pride he took in the work he had done over the years. It wasn't about making millions of dollars or being recognized by the world. It was about living a life in sync with nature and building something meaningful, even if it was just for oneself and one's family. Later in the day, after Alex had finished some tasks and was taking a break, he found himself sitting on the porch of the farmhouse, watching the sun slowly dip below the horizon. Henry's family gathered around a simple wooden table for dinner, their conversation full of warmth and laughter. Alex couldn't help but feel a sense of longing. There was something deeply comforting about the simplicity of their lives. No one was on their phones, no one was worried about making the next deal. They were just present, connected to each other and to the land. As he sat there, Alex realized how disconnected he had been from everything that truly mattered. His pursuit of success had led him to ignore the deeper connections that made life meaningful: family, relationships, the joy of creating something with your hands. The office, the meetings, the constant chase for more, it all seemed so distant now. The sunset, the warmth of the family's presence, and the peacefulness of the farm gave Alex a profound sense of fulfillment, something he hadn't felt in years. He hadn't realized how much he missed the feeling of real human connection, of being grounded in something beyond just business success. The sense of accomplishment from a day's hard work on the farm was something far more authentic than the hollow victories of his corporate world. And for the first time in a long while, Alex felt at peace. As the day wore on, Alex's initial skepticism about farming slowly began to melt away. He had started the day with a sense of superiority, confident that he would breeze through the tasks and prove that his business acumen could easily translate to the simple life of a farmer. But by mid-afternoon, after hours of hard labor, Alex began to feel something he hadn't anticipated: a deep sense of humility. The physical exhaustion he felt was unlike anything his luxurious lifestyle had prepared him for. More importantly, it wasn't just his body that was aching. There was a growing awareness inside him, an awareness that the life he had built, filled with wealth and status, was ultimately disconnected from the deeper values that had begun to take root in his mind during his time on the farm. Henry, the farmer, had been a patient guide throughout the day. He shared with Alex stories of farming life, speaking with quiet conviction about the values that had sustained him through years of hard work. Farming isn't just a job, Henry explained as they repaired a broken fence together. It's a way of life. You don't get instant results. You plant seeds, you nurture them, you wait, and you hope for the best. And when the harvest comes, it's not just the crop you've grown, it's the work, the patience, the resilience you've put into it. That's the real reward. These words struck Alex more deeply than he expected. As he worked alongside Henry, he began to understand that farming was not about making quick profits or achieving immediate success. It was about long-term dedication, taking pride in small victories, and being in harmony with nature. Everything on the farm, every plant, every animal, every task required time, attention, and patience. There was no room for shortcuts or instant gratification. In his corporate life, Alex had been conditioned to pursue short-term gains, to see people and relationships as transactional, and to focus on results rather than processes. His entire world had revolved around quick decisions, fast-paced outcomes, and the constant pressure to grow. But here, on the farm, Alex saw how patience and persistence were key to achieving true fulfillment. The crops didn't grow overnight. Animals didn't become healthy and strong in a day. The farm required consistency and care over time, qualities that Alex had long neglected in his own life. As the hours passed, Alex's mind wandered back to his business world. He had spent years climbing the corporate ladder, driven by a relentless pursuit of wealth and success. But in doing so, he had ignored the people around him, the team members who worked for him, the friends and family who tried to reach out to him. Everything had been about meeting deadlines, hitting profit margins, and securing more deals. It was a world of constant pressure, short-term goals, and high-stakes risks. There had been little room for connection, and even less room for emotional fulfillment. By the time dinner arrived, Alex had shifted in his perspective. Sitting at the table with Henry's family, watching them laugh and share stories over a simple meal, Alex couldn't help but feel a deep sense of envy. The family's bond was obvious. They weren't just connected by blood, they were connected by a shared sense of purpose, a collective understanding of the land they worked, and the work they did together. The warmth that radiated from them felt worlds apart from the cold, transactional relationships he had formed over the years. Henry, though modest in his lifestyle, was clearly content with his life. He had a simple home, basic possessions, and no desire for the wealth or fame Alex had chased for so long. Yet Henry seemed far richer in the things that truly mattered: love, purpose, and peace of mind. Alex realized that, despite his billions, he had spent much of his life feeling empty. He had become so focused on financial success that he had forgotten about the joy of real, lasting connections. As he sat there, surrounded by Henry's family, Alex began to see the true value of the simple, grounded life they led. It wasn't the money they earned or the accolades they received that made their lives meaningful. It was the relationships they nurtured, the hard work they put in every day, and their ability to find joy in small things. Alex realized that, despite everything he had achieved, he had been living a life full of empty victories. His wealth didn't bring him happiness, and his success hadn't fulfilled his deeper emotional needs. In that quiet moment, Alex made a decision. He would return to his world, but he would do so with a new understanding. He would strive to be more present, to cultivate meaningful relationships, and to bring patience, resilience, and long-term dedication to everything he did, just as he had witnessed on the farm. For the first time in years, Alex felt a sense of peace settle over him. He knew that the path ahead would be different, but for the first time, he was ready to take it. As the day on the farm drew to a close, Alex stood in the field, wiping the sweat from his brow, his body exhausted from hours of hard labor. The sun was low in the sky, casting a warm, golden glow over the land. He looked around at the simple beauty of the farm, at the animals that had become so much more than just creatures to care for, at the crops he had helped tend, and at the family that had welcomed him into their world. For the first time in a long time, Alex felt a sense of peace, a feeling he hadn't known in years. But now, the moment had arrived. It was time to leave. He had to make a choice: return to his life in the city, with its wealth, power, and pressure, or continue on the path of change he had started to walk today. The decision loomed before him like an immovable wall, and in that moment, he was faced with a fundamental question: could he truly integrate the lessons he had learned on the farm into his fast-paced, high-stress world? Or would he fall back into his old patterns of ambition and material pursuit? Alex's mind raced. The allure of the life he had known, the sleek offices, the deals, the luxury, was undeniable. It was a life that offered instant rewards, constant validation, and a sense of control. But as he looked out over the land, his heart told him something different. He realized that for years he had been chasing bigger and better things, always looking forward to the next achievement, the next success. He had done it all for the approval of others, for the recognition and the praise. He had forgotten what truly mattered. In the quiet of the farm, surrounded by the simplicity and the calm of nature, Alex saw the truth: he had been living for the wrong reasons. His drive for success had come at the cost of his own happiness, his relationships, and his well-being. The truth hit him like a tidal wave: he had spent so many years chasing material success that he had neglected the things that truly brought meaning to life: connection, authenticity, and purpose. As he walked back to the farmhouse, Henry joined him, sensing the shift in Alex's demeanor. The older man, wise from years of experience, offered him a piece of advice that would stay with him for the rest of his life. "You know, Alex," Henry said thoughtfully, "you can be successful in business and still live a life that's connected to things that really matter. It's about balance. You don't have to sacrifice everything for success, and you don't have to let success define who you are. Find a way to be authentic, patient, and compassionate in everything you do. When you do that, the rest will fall into place." Those words struck Alex deeply. In that moment, he realized that Henry was right. He didn't have to give up his business ambitions or his drive to succeed. What he needed was balance. He could still chase success, but he needed to do it in a way that aligned with his newfound values. The corporate world didn't have to be the enemy. It was about how he approached it, how he integrated the lessons of patience, mindfulness, and compassion into his daily life. Alex made a promise to himself right then and there. He would take these lessons with him, weaving them into the fabric of his daily existence. He would make time for the people who mattered, no longer getting caught up in the rush of constant demands. He would be mindful of his actions, taking care to ensure that his decisions were aligned with his values rather than the fleeting satisfaction of success. He would focus on long-term happiness, on building relationships, on nurturing a sense of peace within himself, rather than constantly chasing short-term wins. As he said his goodbyes to Henry and his family, Alex felt a new sense of clarity. The man who had arrived that morning, disconnected from the world and his own emotions, was no longer the same. He was walking away from the farm with a new understanding of what success truly meant, one that involved not just wealth and status, but also authenticity, connection, and a life of purpose. With a final glance at the farm, Alex left, knowing that his journey had just begun. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but it would be real. When Alex returned to his high-rise office, the world around him seemed unchanged, but he was no longer the same man who had left. The fast-paced, pressure-filled environment felt different now, almost distant, as if he was looking at it through a new lens. His days in the office were no longer filled with the frantic energy of constant work, but with a new sense of balance. Alex began to implement small, but impactful, changes in his life. He prioritized family time, scheduling regular dinners with his loved ones and making sure his children had his full attention when they spoke. He was more present in conversations, listening rather than just responding, and taking time to truly connect with his colleagues and employees. He even started to advocate for more sustainable business practices within his company, implementing eco-friendly technologies and advocating for ethical practices in every department. Most importantly, Alex made a conscious effort to spend more time away from the office. He found himself enjoying simple moments, walking in the park, sitting on the porch with his family, and reconnecting with the world outside the walls of his office. He realized that true success wasn't measured by how many deals he closed or how many awards he received, but by how connected he was to the people and the world around him. His transformation didn't stop at home, it rippled into his professional life. Alex made a public announcement about a new initiative his company was launching, one designed to connect the tech industry with sustainable, ethical farming practices. The initiative aimed to bridge the gap between innovation and sustainability, creating a better future for both the environment and future generations. Alex's experience on the farm had sparked this new vision, one that was about more than just profit margins, but about making a meaningful impact on the world. As Alex sat in his office that afternoon, reflecting on his journey, he realized something profound. The secret to life was not found in wealth or the constant chase for more, it was found in living with purpose, patience, and real human connection. He had discovered that true fulfillment came not from the accolades or financial success, but from the depth of relationships and the peace that came from aligning his values with his actions. Alex was finally at peace, knowing that his life's work would now reflect the values he had learned on the farm.